Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have something incredibly cool to take a look at today. This is one that I've been waiting for a long time to get a look at in person, one I was really anticipating once I heard it was being released. We have the Super Colossal Giganotosaurus here, and it is exactly that. Absolutely colossal, like they always are. These super colossal figures are always insanely awesome that Mattel releases because they're so huge and usually so highly detailed. I have every colossal figure they've released up until this point, so it was inevitable that I was going to add this one to my collection, as well as the Tyrannosaurus and the upcoming Pyroraptor. But boy, it is hard to find places to put these because, again, they're so gigantic. They are ridiculously hard to store, but as far as the box art goes, you can see it's your standard when it comes to the Mattel Jurassic World Dominion line. We've got a really nice open area here, taking a look at our Giganotosaurus prior to opening it, and then if we turn the box around, you have a really nice image here on the back showing off the figure itself, as well as a load of the minifigures that are out currently. It might actually be the entire wave, potentially, there, of minis that are released by Mattel at this point in time, interestingly enough. So, let's go ahead, pop this open, and get on with the task of trying to review something so massive. So, here is... wow, this thing is huge. The Giganotosaurus, and it is so ridiculously huge, like these colossal figures always are. Even though I have every colossal figure up until this point, I'm always just so blown away by how massive these things are. It's always just for some reason, such a surprise to me trying to pull it up here onto the, review station and get a look at it. This thing is just beyond ridiculously gigantic. Very intimidating looking Giganotosaurus with such a presence up here on the review station. And I really feel like Mattel did a fantastic job of capturing the likeness of the Giganotosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. It is just an incredible looking figure overall. Obviously, I'm going to have to take this one outside to take images of it just so that I can get a good enough shot of it to show you guys how impressive this model really is. But before we do all of that, we're going to go ahead and jump straight to a closer look right now. Honestly, I'm starting to think I probably shouldn't have put this together before reviewing the different pieces because it is so gigantic. I really can't find anywhere to put it up here to take a closer look at it, but we'll try our best. So you can see straight away as far as the head sculpt goes, the head sculpt sports incredible amounts of detail. As always, when it comes to a Mattel figure, you can see that the sculpt is incredibly highly detailed. I love that we have like injuries and slits and stuff here through the course of the lower jaw, obviously showing that this Giganotosaurus is a very confrontational dinosaur, since that's exactly how he is perceived so far with Jurassic World Dominion. We have the nostrils sculpted out up here at the tip of the snout. The teeth are very cool looking, very interlocking, crocodilian-like teeth. You've got some fantastic detail right there in the eye socket all around the eye. The eye is painted with a gold and given a black pupil. I'm not normally a big fan of gold eyes, but it actually looks really cool in this figure. It stands out very nicely with the dark black coloration there that's all around it. You also, again, have a greenish tone for the body, and then you have some of the black that kind of like stripes down and streaks down through the course of the face of the Giganotosaurus. You also have a very kind of armored-like look to the top of the head here, running up and over the eye area of our dinosaur. And, of course, an articulated jaw, which is a little tough to open right now. We have a really nice realistic tone of color for the inside of the mouth with a purple. It's a little bit complicated to get in there and show you how nice it is because of how huge this is, but you can see the tongue is very nicely textured and everything. The teeth are all painted very nicely. You can see the upper side of the inside of the mouth as well sports some beautiful coloration in there. And all of the teeth, again, look great as far as both the sculpting and the paintwork aspect. And they're kind of like a bendable rubber, so they're much safer than I would have expected them to be. If you look up here at the top of the head, if we can move this to the top of the head, you can see, again, kind of like that armored type of a look to the top of the head of the dinosaur, as well as some more really nice skin detail up here. You can see the black picks up, though, right after the head, and we start to have that black kind of striping and splotching down along the side of the Giganotosaurus. You have those ridges, those at this point, trademark ridges of the Jurassic version of the Giganotosaurus picking up here on the top of the dinosaur. All of those are very nicely sculpted out with some very fine detail like cracks and crevices, and you can also see like rows of scutes, a very armored type of a look to the neck of the Giganotosaurus. And as you continue to move down the course of the Giganotosaurus, you see lots of creasing in the neck, lots of fantastic skin detail moving down. You even have kind of like a row of like scutes here running along the throat region of our dinosaur, and it looks super, super cool. Man, this thing is massive. Again, more of that armored type of a look running down the back of the dinosaur, more of those scutes and ridges running along the spinal column before they again pick back up here in the mid-back area and become exceptionally large. But you can see how like the green kind of like creeps through all of the black areas and everything. It looks insanely neat the way that this is colored, and you can see all of it is very nicely applied with an airbrush, so all of the paintwork looks very precise, very natural overall. You can see down here in the side of the stomach we have some more slits and everything, some more injuries that this Giganotosaurus clearly has sustained over time. As we lead down into the arm does sport some nice muscle definition. The elbow is present right there, and then you move down into the hand, some nice scoots down the fingers on the hand. Very, very nicely done. You can also see that we have some nails sculpted out there, but they are not painted, which is really, really weird. This figure, I think, might be the first Colossal release that we've had that does not have painted nails. We also have some nice detailing here as far as the skin goes for the underside of the figure, but you can also see we have some alternate paintwork as well, as we have kind of like a tan coloration pickup right around the chest region and continue to move down the course of the figure. There is the area where you can open it up. Once you swallow some of the minis, you can open it up again and release them, or, you know, human figures or whatever you want to put in the mouth of the Giganotosaurus. As you move back up here into the back, again, you can see the ridges there running along the back of the dinosaur. A lot of people thought that the dinosaur kind of had like a hump on its back early on, but it definitely does not. They're just really large ridges that pick up there in the mid-back area. And again, more of the paintwork looks really nice moving down. You have some fantastic skin detail, some fantastic scale detail, kind of some skin wrinkles here in the lower part of the stomach, leading back into the thigh and the hip region of the dinosaur. Again, the paintwork looks really nice, but once we get down here into the leg, we don't have any alternate tones of color down here in the leg. We really only have the green, but there is kind of like a splotchy effect to this, sort of like we had seen on a lot of the Mattel figures recently, but they've kind of used that color that they have for the underneath, that kind of like light brown or tan, and added some splotchiness. You can see some right there, a little bit right here, you can see some over here. It's actually really abundant through almost the entire figure, and I'm really not that big of a fan of it on this one. A lot of them I thought it looked really nice on, but this one it just kind of looks more like paint errors rather than paint application. You could see some more injuries though down here. If you were to repaint this one, there would be a lot of injuries to paint out, especially if you're going to go for like a mixture of scars and open wounds. There's definitely a lot to this one. The muscle definition is incredibly nice looking. Again, the scale detail is fantastic moving down the course of the leg. You've got the kneecap here in the front of the leg, as well as a nice bulging calf muscle in the back. Again, more injuries. This dinosaur has more injuries than what you usually see on like an Indominus Rex or even the male Tyrannosaurus from the Jurassic Park franchise, who usually has some scars and stuff on him. Once you move down into the foot, the scale detail looks fantastic. Very reptilian scale detail. You've got some nice scoots down the toes. Again, nicely sculpted nails, but no nail paint, which is a really big downside, I think, for this figure. It really, needs nail paint when it comes to the Colossal figures, but the foot sculpt still looks nice. Very much so oversized compared to the figure, but still really nice. And then leading out here into the tail, you see more injuries as well as more fantastic scale detail and skin detail. Again, the armored look up here on the top. But unfortunately, that black starts to taper off, and we now transition more to a green for the back of the dinosaur and the ridges running along the back of the tail. You do have a little bit more of the splotchy black right there before it completely disappears, and then we don't have any of that leading out the length of the tail. The tail, though, does definitely have a really nice sculpt to it. Kind of have to move this a little bit to try to get it in frame, but the tail is really nice and long. One thing you don't really have when it comes to these larger Colossal figures is shorter tails like you often find on Mattel figures. You can see more of that splotchy kind of like tan though out here on the tail. On the promo images, it looked a lot cooler than what we see here on the actual factory produced figure, that's definitely for sure. Since the figure is pretty much the same again on both sides, you're really not going to see much difference. I don't feel like we really need to go over this side too much. The only difference would probably be like the different positioning of injuries and scars and stuff. But this side I noticed the kind of splotchy coloration on, and I wanted to point it out, like right here in the lower jaw and right here in the chest region. It really just looks more like paint, like mishaps rather than body color. And that's like the only thing I could say that I really don't like about the paint is that the fact that we don't have the black running further out onto the tail and the lack of nail paint. But other than that, again, the paint looks really good. The sculpt is fantastic. Looks pretty much, again, the same on this side like we saw on the other side, minus the fact that the legs are in a slightly different position and we have different scars and everything over here. But what a beast of a figure. It's absolutely trying to knock over everything that I have here. We'll definitely get some better shots of this when we head outside. But for now, I think we're done chancing it with this closer look. I really cannot get over the size of this thing. It is absolutely unreal how large this Giganotosaurus is. You can see that the entire thing is just massive. It has completely butchered my area over here to the right as far as, anything I had sitting over here. I had to move some stuff around just to get it up here into frame and take a look at it with you guys. It is that ridiculously huge. And to show you that, we're going to get a look here at the size in a moment, but before we do that, I do want to state that as far as articulation goes, we do have the articulation of the jaw. So you can see the articulation of the jaw works really nicely. It can open pretty wide, very nice and smooth. We also have articulation right here in the neck, so you can swivel the head and turn the head of your Giganotosaurus to create some pretty cool poses. You also, of course, have the articulation of the arms, forward and back, as well as wrist articulation, which is nice to see on the figure. And then you have hip articulation up here, right there, to move the legs forward and back, which works pretty nicely, as well as ankle articulation down here. Again, all of this is like your standard articulation when it comes to Mattel figures, and since it's so huge and I risk breaking things trying to articulate it up here on the review station, I'm not going to really do that much, but again, you can definitely tell that like the leg can move forward and back. I don't want to move it too erratically. It's a little stiff, honestly, as far as the legs go on mine, but you have the articulation here of the ankle as well. And then your usual articulation up here in the tail. When it comes to Mattel figures, you can move the tail around, back and forth, up and down, all of that. And then you have even a little bit more articulation out here where you can swivel about halfway through the tail. Get a better shot of that. So about halfway through the tail, you can swivel it. So the articulation isn't really that incredible, but it's not really needed because the figure as a whole being so huge is the most impressive aspect, of course, of this release. As far as a size goes, and boy, is it a big one, for a length from the tip of the tail to the snout, even though the tape measure is upside down, you are looking at about the, it probably doesn't look like it from your angle, you're looking at about 39.5, maybe even 39.75 inches, or around 101 centimeters, I would say, in length. So ridiculously long. And then height-wise, the highest point, actually, we'll just go to these ridges right here. You're looking at about 14 inches, probably not too visible to you, but about 14 inches or around the 35.5 centimeter area. Or if we come back here to these large ridges here on the back, you're looking at about a little over 14 inches or around 36.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our gigantic Giganotosaurus. And you can really see now next to those figures right there that this thing is beyond huge, as it always is when it comes to a colossal figure. I will put some comparisons in at the end of the video with some images that I'll take of this in comparison to other colossal figures, but I have to do that outside. There's just no way I have the room for that in here, but you can definitely get a good idea again of the fact that this thing is massive in comparison to these figures right here. And I really don't think there's any specific figure that I could bring in right now to compare it with that will really give it justice and show you just how huge it is. So I think the colossal comparisons near the end of the video will probably help a bit more. So this Super Colossal Jurassic World Dominion Giganotosaurus from Mattel is awesome, absolutely awesome, if you have the room for it. And that's the biggest problem with these colossal figures, is many people don't have the room for them. And considering they continue to release colossal figures, it gets harder and harder as time goes on to actually have a place to put these. But luckily for me, I just kind of stand them up here behind me on the floor and hope they stay out of the way, because I don't really have anywhere else currently to put them. I would love to have some kind of shelf up on the wall somewhere to display all of these up away from the ground where they're just, out of the way. But again, they're just so huge and I really have nowhere to put them right now. But the sculpt and detail of this figure is extremely nicely done. I love the overall appearance to the Giganotosaurus, the design they had come up with. It's really cool, again, a little exaggerated, but they probably didn't want their dinosaur to look like just another generic dinosaur. They wanted it to stand out a little bit, so I can understand why they kind of made it a little exaggerated, like with the larger ridges and everything running down the back. And now we will always look at that and, again, no, that's the Giganotosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. So they did a good job of kind of giving it an appearance that will make it memorable and make it stand out. And the sculpt of this specifically shows that off very nicely, as well as, again, injuries everywhere. Like, this thing is just covered in scars and injuries. I don't know if we'll get an idea as far as why it's so beat up in the film. I would imagine we will. I'm just going to assume that the Giganotosaurus is a very mean dinosaur and is always picking on other dinosaurs, I guess, that try to stand up for themselves, and that's why we are covered in injuries and scars on this Giganotosaurus. But again, the injury aspect of this is really cool, and it's something you would definitely see on a real living dinosaur. You would definitely see injuries, scars, all kinds of stuff all over it. So again, another realistic aspect to the figure as a whole. The size is unreasonably huge, like absolutely mind-bogglingly gigantic, and that, of course, is the selling point of the colossal figures. And let me tell you, they achieved it perfectly with this Giganotosaurus. Yet again, another massive release from them. And of course, the huge size really makes it a standout figure and really draws you in immediately the moment you see it. Like, there is just no escaping it. This figure is so huge that it just instantly sucks you in and makes you take note of it. And again, that's pretty much what the goal is, I would imagine, with the colossal figures. Definitely a figure any kid is going to absolutely love, and any figure that a collector, as long as you've got the room for it, is also going to love. It does sport some fun articulation. It also sports the ability to eat smaller dinosaurs, human beings, things like that, and then again, retrieve them from the stomach. I didn't show that off in the video, but I've shown that off in the past in other Super Colossal reviews. They usually have that same similar kind of action feature to them, so that's not really anything new. And again, as a whole, it is just a beast of a Giganotosaurus, and I am beyond happy to have this now here in my collection. I've had it sitting here for quite a few days since the Dominion line dropped, just waiting to get it up here and review it, and I am so happy that I now have it out of the packaging and I can take a look at it in all of its glory, because it really is an incredible figure. So if you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase it on Target.com, or you can purchase it in store. Target seems currently to be really well stocked when it comes to this Giganotosaurus. Mine definitely is, at least, so you shouldn't have any big problem finding it, I would hope. But one way or another, if you've got the room and you've got $60, this is a great buy. You get a lot of dinosaur for your money. So make sure you pick it up, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.